Hey, welcome everybody to the next episode of our Coffee Breakdown podcast. And today's guest, I'm glad to introduce Darío Cruz, who is the executive officer of the FuseNet organization. So welcome, Darío.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, no worries. I'm always glad to have interesting guests on. And I think that you're most interesting because you're leading this FuseNet organization, which has large, I guess, connections with the fusion programs across Europe. So maybe we can start there a bit. Maybe you can explain to us what the FuseNet organization is and what they do.
Sure. So, FuseNet stands for the European Fusion Education Network. So the goal of FuseNet is to be a platform where all educational activities in fusion in Europe can be located. So we are we would like to consider us like a central hub for European education in fusion. And the association targets students from various educational levels. We start quite early from primary school. Then we go up the way secondary school. Then we have bachelor, we have master, we have a doctorate, and then we have a last work package, which works with the professional development. So the goal of FuseNet is to provide education and training for fusion students to be able to integrate within this emerging work field of fusion. So we are thinking about the next generation developments, the machines that are being built at the moment, the machines that will be built in the future. So we're trying to promote education at this time so we can have a skilled workforce in the upcoming years at the moment where they are needed to operate these machines that are under construction or are soon to be starting operation. For example, like ITER, the most famous one at the moment. But also we are thinking about the next steps, the demo, and all the accompanying installations that need to be constructed to help fulfill the goals in fusion. So this is pretty much it. We're a student-oriented association. We have among our members almost 70 members, which are divided, between universities, research center, and companies related to fusion. And we are part of Eurofusion. So we are a Eurofusion-funded institution where we consider ourselves a branch of Eurofusion, which is the European Consortium for Fusion Development. So we are really integrated into the fusion environment. We take pride of our network and our community building activities, but also of our education and training activities with students that perhaps later in the interview I can talk more about it. But yeah, this is pretty much FuseNet in a nutshell.
Oh, that's pretty interesting, actually. I didn't know FuseNet was already involved at the primary school level. That seems incredible.
Yeah.
He's got to teach them when they're young, this is the future.
Yeah. And people that really don't sometimes people don't think about it because, of course, fusion at the moment is really focused on pushing the limits and solving the issues and the challenges. So there is a lot of ongoing research which is necessary at the researcher level, PhD level, and so this is the forefront. But of course, we have to think way back at the beginning of education, because, like I mentioned earlier, these young kids at the moment is going to be the people who's gonna be taking the next challenges in fusion, and probably we'll see the futures of all the work that has been done at the moment. So we need to be ready in the fusion community to have this transition of generations within our field. Otherwise, we risk having a generational gap, and that would be really, really bad, especially at this moment where we are building the machines and we have things ready to operate. So we really need to have skilled people available from the early ages to fill in these gaps. So
yeah, that's true. And it helps to keep the knowledge around, right? I suppose that's a big issue when a senior professor or senior research staff retires, and then, who takes up that mantle, who keeps that knowledge in the institutions and stuff. That's very important. So I'm glad to see that you guys are taking care of that. And I guess from your opinion, this is more now into, I guess, based on your experience in the fusion education system and dealing with handling these efforts. What do you think the state of fusion physics education in Europe is right now? Do you think there's enough going on to support the machines such as ITER and maybe demo in the future, or is there room for more? What do you think? How do you think it is, the landscape right now?
I think the landscape at the moment is very promising and very good. Of course, we need more, that is for sure. But if I focus, for example, on the master level education, which is like one of the main target of FuseNet are master students, although I mentioned earlier that we encompass the whole educational range, but our main focus is master students. At the moment, there are good master programs in Europe that provide proper education and that are let's say, well, we're interconnected with the different research centers, but also with companies. So students are able to work on a project at the very heart of fusion research, but also they're able to do some internships in fusion related companies. So I say it's promising, but it's not enough because we really have a huge demand for personnel and for students, for researchers, and not only for researcher and engineer, but also for people with fusion knowledge that are able to work in specific projects like construction, development, communication, and outreach. So there is a lot of need now at this current stage of fusion. So we need more. We need to try to attract new talent. We need to be able to provide in Europe more formation in fusion. So we need to find the people, but also we need to increase the program so they can join. So for Europe is doing well. So I believe that Europe, as the leader of fusion in the world, I would say, because I think that the Europe is the one that invests more money and resources in the development in fusion. If you take the situation worldwide, so Europe is in a very good place, but it is clear that we need to improve this because in the long term this will not be enough, and we really need this to increase at the time. So I think not to make advertisement, but you and I came from a very nice master program. We have very fond memories of this, the European
yes
program. So Fusion EP, it's a really good initiative with a lot of benefits of traveling, moving around, mobility, student mobility. This is also something we support in FuseNet. Maybe I forgot to mention in the beginning that mobility is a key aspect of FuseNet. So we give mobility support to master students, and yeah, that's one of our main tasks. Also here in the headquarters of FuseNet, they are TUE, the Technical University of Eindhoven, and also the Technical University of Eindhoven has a fusion master program, which is really big. I think along with the Fusion EP is the biggest master programs in Europe. And yeah, students also here, I'm looking there because the students of the master program are across my window. so yeah, so these programs are really good. So we know from experience that they are good, but they need to be increased and enhanced.
Yeah, that's true. And I definitely have fond memories of the Fusion EP program. It was this mobility that definitely made it attractive to me to apply and join in the first place. So I suppose it's fun that you're working there now and contributing back to the program in your way. Yeah.
It's something I'm really happy about because I've been myself a beneficiary of the initiative of FuseNet as a student. So I took part of the mobility, I took part of the training courses. So I know from experience that it works, that it really helps enhance your career and get more involvement in fusion. So now that I chose this path away from research and now moving into more education, training, communication, and outreach, I'm really happy to provide the same opportunity to those students, the new generation of students, so they're able to also to be integrated into the whole fusion community with mobility, with support. So it's really nice. I have to tell you.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point to bring up now, that the outreach and engagement of Fusion. So this is something you said that you're working to improve. So what do you think? How do you think that's doing right now? Like, is it enough, or is the outreach good? Is the response from the public good? And how can we improve it if you don't think that we're quite there yet?
I would say that usually response for the people is good, but this is a field that we really need to improve in fusion. I believe because in the fusion community we have really very high skilled people, that work on the challenges of fusion, which are really, you know, mind-blowing, and you really need to have skilled people and really smart people to work on this. But usually the issue with this is that people are really like centered in the inside of their own community, of their own problems, which I understand. But it is sometimes difficult to let the public know what is it that we're doing, because people think about nuclear fusion and out of the blue, well, we are related to many things like, oh yeah, nuclear, oh well, tragedy, and fusion, and what about the bomb? So can you make a bomb? And so, but it's the preconception of people having like these thoughts from other industry, like say from the fission industry or whatever, but they really don't know what fusion is. But it's also because there is a lack of sharing with the public. So maybe some researchers don't see the value of this, of talking to the public. But we have to remember that fusion, and at least the initiatives we're working on, are mainly public funded. So fusion in Europe, the main economical driver is the European Commission, and the European Commission is taxpayers' money. So actually, the people need to know what is it that they're funding, and we need to be able to tell the people what is it that the taxpayers are spending the money on. So I really believe that communication and outreach is really important, also to show people what fusion is, to get people involved in the goals of fusion, because the goals of fusion are really good. And we have the experience. For example, we had it was 2 weeks ago the Dutch Design Week here in the Netherlands. So it was at Eindhoven, and we had this. We had an invitation from the organization to have a booth about fusion within the Dutch Design Week. So we from the fusion group here at the Technical University of Eindhoven, they brought some experiments, some plasma experiments, and we were there invited to talk to the people, to interact with the people, and there was a lot of interaction. People were really interested, and once you discuss with people the goals of fusion, not only the good part, but also the timeline, and saying that, so everything, you are very honest with people really like follow this initiative. They're really interested, and they see the benefit of it. So I think if we can reach, the more people we can reach with our objectives in fusion, the more interested people will be. So fusion is a really interesting field now for the people, but they just don't know about it. So there are few opportunities to get to know what fusion is really about. So I think that the communication from the researchers, it's really important to try to communicate in a simple way to people, to let them know, because at the end, well, the funding is coming from there. So we may be able to do great research in fusion and great milestones and everything, but if the support from the people is not there, then it's really complicated. Also because people need to know that the end goal of this is actually to improve the quality of life of the whole planet, and to bring the human generation to the next level. So I think these are good initiatives to be shared with the public, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. And I think even as a researcher, maybe this is a bit selfish to say, but like it's nice to feel that the public supports your research in some way, right? Like it is something they're interested in, and you're bringing to reality a product or a solution to a problem that people really have. So that's also really nice as well, and it's good to know that the public has your back in some way. And yeah, good thing that you mentioned this Dutch Design Week. I mean, I volunteered for one time slot during that week just to talk to people, and I found that a lot of the public people that I talked to during that session knew a fair amount about fusion. Either they've heard about it, or some sci-fi show mentioned it here and there, and they were curious. But I want to ask you, because myself, I'm a bit more scientifically minded even when I was young, so I kind of naturally went in the direction of science and tech. But do you think that the general public, like people who have not went that direction or have found some other interest in life, would have heard of fusion or are interested in fusion at all? What's your experience on that?
Well, yeah, I was also participating as a speaker there, and also I was really surprised sometimes of people actually getting to know fusion. and I told them, I asked them sometimes, like, why do you have such a deep knowledge of fusion? Because, you know, you usually explain to people like, yeah, what's fusion? Yeah, but what about the how do you deposit the energy? What about the exhaust and these topics that say, oh, well, you know more or less how a tokamak works, at least, or a stellarator. So, well, people usually they say, yeah, well, I have my son who is into studying something technology, or I saw a video somewhere. So actually, people get the information from fusion from really sources that you wouldn't expect. But this is also a good thing, because you know that, for example, if you are able to communicate in videos, for example, your initiative, for example, having a podcast in YouTube. Also, our initiative, we have from FuseNet an educational video what we released recently. It's also available in YouTube. It's called the nuclear fusion, the easiest thing nature does. It's, yeah, well,
it happens naturally, right?
Yeah, well, it does. So, and then yeah, so we have this educational video. It's a 30-minute video in the uploaded in YouTube, in the FuseNet YouTube channel. And yeah, and this kind of, it's a general overview of fusion for very basics. So it's not really technically oriented. It's more like we had the aim for secondary school students and yeah, an early bachelor students. So it's really simple but well explained. So people actually get to see these videos and they get interested, and yeah, it's interesting to see the source of information that fusion comes to people. But that's also shows the importance of being able to transmit to the public, and also the same thing that we mentioned early. It's very important to get the people from the young age to be involved in fusion at this early stage, so to have some knowledge in fusion. So yeah, so I think the earlier the people get to know about fusion from the right channel, so with proper information, simple but adequate and accurate information about fusion, I think this is going to be helpful once they are grown-ups, once they fit properly into society, so people already know, have a knowledge and understanding, a proper base, and that would help also with speeding up fusion research, in the sense of getting more people invested in the field, but also will help a lot with public acceptance, because usually the issue with public acceptance is that people really don't know what they're talking about. So you can be against something, but you really don't know what it is. So that's the case, especially in this field. So fusion gets associated with many things that have nothing to do with fusion, and that reflects on the acceptance of the public. So if people actually know what they're talking about, or people know what they're against or in favor of, so that makes things easier. So I believe,
yeah, it's good that you mentioned that YouTube video. So we'll put a link attached to this podcast episode, and hopefully people can share it, especially if it's a short sound bite, then people have the attention span for that, and it doesn't take much of their time. So that's really wonderful. Yeah, that's true. That I found also interesting that in the field of fusion, it's especially once you get into the technological part, it broadens significantly. Like even the science itself is quite broad. It touches many different aspects of science, but also then the technology, once you include that, it's really a broad field. You can get involved in so many different ways, and it doesn't even have to be technical in nature, as you said, with communication and outreach and stuff like that. So it's really interesting also to provide the information of all the different opportunities within fusion for pretty much anybody who's interested in doing anything, right? So
yeah. I think that's the beauty of fusion. There is a place for everybody, literally. So also, like, people mainly associate fusion, of course, with science and engineering and really high tech and high level, which is true, but that's not the only opportunity to work in fusion, because fusion now needs a lot of deployment into society. And I bring up the word deployment because just today there was a master class here from the Fusion Master at TUE, and there was an exposition from the students about deployment of Fusion. So I was invited to attend the session. I attended it this morning, and yeah, they were part of their task was to explain all this how to deploy Fusion into society, because we still need to fix the technological scientific challenges that we are working at the moment as the fusion community, but also we already need to start preparing and seeing how is the fusion energy going to be deployed into society, because there are many aspects, and you need people involved with communications, suppliers, regulations, legal matters. So I think fusion is a really broad, like you mentioned, a really broad field, and it's there is opportunity for everybody from many different sectors, not necessarily science and engineering, but there is a lot of requests for the fusion deployment that need people to from different backgrounds to join the fusion efforts. I think it's really nice. It's really nice to have this multidisciplinary approach to fusion.
Yeah, I think just like last month we had Professor Nick Lopez Cardozo on, who was talking also about the issues of deployment of fusion reactors. So I imagine that he was also quite interested in that masterclass.
Yeah, he was present.
Definitely. But I think that it's interesting that you mentioned that communication is also plays an important role in the deployment, and improving outreach and engagement in general is crucial for that aspect. And I'm curious, how do we do that, other than doing maybe what we're doing, talking about it and talking about it in a public manner where anybody can listen to. Do you have other ways of how we can improve the outreach of fusion, especially because it's so heavily scientific or so heavily technical sometimes, right?
I think one of the ideas, but it can be it's done more locally, but it's very successful, I would say, is about bringing the public to the facilities of fusion. So the biggest, and I would say the best example at the moment is ITER. I am lucky to know the people from the ITER communication office, and they do an amazing job. And one of the things they do is they bring people to ITER, any kind of people. Like the public is able to go to ITER. They give a tour of ITER, how it works, how the challenges, everything, but also people get to see what is fusion and what a fusion machine looks like. And ITER is a very impressive machine, so of course that when people get inside, it's just as amazing. So they do a really good communication outreach, especially for the people in the region, because they want to involve the public and have the public there. So I think these kind of initiatives, although of course not everybody is able to travel from a far place to go to ITER, but I think getting the people visiting the facilities, getting the people knowing the researchers, knowing what actually fusion is about, I think that's a good approach to making fusion closer to the people. And of course you need a good communication office. You need the availability also of the scientists and the people on site to be able to deal with people coming in and out all the whole time, because some researchers get annoyed by having, and I can understand, because if you're doing your research, then you don't want people just moving around you and looking at you like, hey, the researcher. Yeah. But I mean, it would be nice also to allocate some time to have this interaction with people. So yeah, I think these initiatives could also work. This is the one that comes to mind, but this is the closest thing you can get to the public, other than of course proper education and sending a message to online media channels. So also I would say online media, although it's less in contact, but being able to have a good social media strategy, I think, especially at this time of civilization where social media channels and diffusion are really important. I would say that jumping into these ways of communicating to people, it's also a good way to approach. And also you can see which targets you want to approach, because you can see which the age range, for example, that uses certain platform or not, or the goals of the people using certain platform or not, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or even TikTok. So then you can see the age range, and you can maybe a little bit target more your I would say promotion of fusion, or the content you want to share with people, depending on the platform you are using. So
yeah, that's a good point, because I think it's only the past couple of years there's been an explosion of fusion in the social media. I don't know if it's due to the Jet New record or ITER starting construction, or I have no idea, but or the startups, I'm not sure, but it just really seemed like it exploded.
Yeah, it is
So
true.
that's
Yeah,
always
maybe
very
it's
good.
a
Yeah.
combination of all these factors. Maybe it is because, yeah, I have to say that in the recent years, there's been a lot of developments and milestone for fusion. So now I would say it's a good time to be in fusion because a lot of things are going on now, and lots of things are planning to happen also in the near future. So yeah, maybe it is that's a combined situation. Yeah.
Yeah, just all these big milestones happening all together, like sequentially, and then there was just suddenly a lot of news and a lot of hype, which is great. You know, I'm very happy for it because it brings attention to kind of what we do. But back to an earlier point you were saying, like, because you said maybe sometimes scientists don't want, you know, general public people, you know, looking at them and seeing, oh, what are you doing? And while they're trying to work. But it raises a point, like how important is the role of communication to the scientist, like to the person doing the research in fusion? Oftentimes, it seems like the media outreach or public outreach to the public is handled by, you know, scientific journalists or people who are dedicated to communication and outreach and stuff like this. Is that the right way to approach it, or should scientists take a more active role, or is there anything they can do which kind of fits it within their daily routine, which would improve things? Do you have any opinions on this?
I think, I think it's not. To be honest, it's not necessarily for scientists to just switch all their focus into communication, because I think that's also something that you are more prone to do or not, and also depends on the person. So I'd say for the scientists, the maybe with the willingness to communicate their results to the general public is fine. Also, now that you mentioned the figure of the scientific journalist, I think this is really important. So I have to make some advertisement for my colleagues at the at the FuseCom. FuseCom is the Eurofusion group of scientific journalists from all the Eurofusion member institutions, and I have to say that they do really a great job in communicating to the public the milestones and the findings of the researchers from their own institutions. So I think this is a very important figure, and this is a very important group, and a very important initiative. So these figures are important, but also the willingness from the scientists to show the research even to the scientific journalism. So just to communicate, you know, like, hey, I'm doing this. This is a good thing for the several reasons. Then they let the journalists themselves to make the story. So it's not necessary for the scientist itself to, after you write a report on your research, now you have to sit and write a story for the public. No, there is people for that, but then the scientists should be willing to have this interaction with the journalists and the experts in communication as well. Maybe it is the case of a scientist who is really enjoying communication. That's also the case. I would mention you, that you have this this podcast, and then you are a scientist in doing research for Eurofusion, and there are people with similar initiatives. So that this is also something good, but this is more on you, on what you like, on your skills and your background. So we cannot expect every scientist to be a journalist or to be a good communicator, but what we would like is for the scientific community to at least to be willing to share their news with the people who are actually communicators and spread the news to the public.
Yeah, because I find one thing, at least speaking from a scientist's perspective, that often it's hard to see exactly the impact of the work that you do that could be, you know, interesting to put into a media article or some kind of outreach project, right? Because you're often so in this deep field, and it's just like you feel like it's just incremental improvements to what exists, and it doesn't make for a great story, let's say. But of course, maybe that's just a lie, right? Because we're doing this every day, so it becomes boring to us, but or at least becomes routine to us. But maybe someone else is very interested, or it could make a great story. So how do you balance this, right? Like, is it just going to the scientific journalist with everything that you come up with? Is that a way to do it, or is there some way to kind of organize this information a little bit better?
Yeah, I think it would be at least to just to summarize, because of course there is in scientific research in fusion there is a lot of topics and there is a lot of technicalities and there is a lot of things, but at the end there is always an end goal. So the end goal of all the scientific work you do, either by experiments, either by simulation, either by theory, but there is at the end there is some goal. So as long as you are able to communicate that goal clearly to the public and make a brief overview of what you're doing, I think that's enough. So because in fusion we have really in-depth research, and there is a lot of things to be reported and lots of things to be communicated within the community, not necessarily to the public, but to be shared with the community, let's say, and to be reported especially. And of course, if you give all those reports to a scientific journalist, he's going to say, what are you giving?
Yes, exactly.
What do I do with this? So, of course, there has to be some prior, but just I think but for the scientists, the idea is always clear. You do an experiment, you do some research, you have some goals you want to achieve. So I think starting by that, then just like a basic understanding of how you came to there, I think that's good enough. That's good enough for somebody who is a journalist, a scientific journalist, or a journalist to make a story out of it, because they're really good. They're really trained people. They know how to make story, but they need to have the right elements, and also very important, they need to have the accurate information, because one of the issues sometimes is you can have a very nice story and very engaging story, but when you see about it, there is not accurate information at all, and that is a very high risk, because you are like kind of damaging, or spoiling the whole story, the whole idea, the whole research, because you are not giving accurate information. You are just sacrificing that accurate information for making a really showboat story. Let's call it like that. So I think also from the scientists, it would be really good to give clear and accurate information to the journalists and make emphasis that this has to be accurate. And then they are the ones who make the story, and they make a good story. But a good story should be, especially in fusion research, a good story should have some solid facts behind. Otherwise there is the risk of claiming things to the public that we are actually not able to do, or not even willing to do, but it's just misinformation. So I think that part is really important.
Yeah, I think so as well, because this is, I guess, one of the biggest criticisms that I've heard from the scientists themselves about some of the media, let's say, hype that floats around, is sort of, well, okay, that's not exactly true. There's always these articles that say we'll achieve it in like 5 years, and everyone's like, maybe that's possible, but maybe that's a stretch, right? Right. And then so it's really a delicate balance, and I agree that the factual information is important, but it is also, one would argue, difficult to do, because especially there's like economy of words, right? To be accurate and precise and with all the nuance required for a delicate subject, it often takes much more time and much more space than, let's say, somebody who wants to get like a nice, quick, emotional story is willing to give. So it's sort of like two worlds it's hard to communicate, but I agree that the outcome, if done properly, is very beneficial.
And if you make a good outcome, like concise and accurate, it sticks with people. So people, and that's how you get people in events like the Dutch Design Week. That's how you get people that you talk to them and they already know a lot about fusion. This is how you get to them, like, because they saw it somewhere, they read it, they got interested, and they got the true facts, so they know.
Yeah, and the amount of like intelligent questions as well. Like I was expecting that I'd have to explain, hydrogen atoms binding together and then creating energy, but like everyone knew that already. So I'm like, yes, thank you. I'll have to say it a million times.
Save me some time, repeating the story.
Yes, exactly. But that is true, though. It is very difficult to do, and especially these people who specialize in scientific communication and scientific journalism. I'm sure it's not an easy job, and it's very easy to go wrong. So kudos to them for doing a diligent due diligence and getting it done, right?
really great people working in the communication. So for the audience of your podcast, the researchers, then they should know that usually in their institutions there is always a scientific journal. There is the communication office in most of at least the Eurofusion institutions. There is so there are really good people who know how to do outreach to the public with the facts. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that especially as a scientist, how oftentimes, as you correctly mentioned, the communication skill is not there, or there's a specific way scientists, talk to each other, which may not be suitable for, just talking to the general public. It's easy to get overwhelmed with things that maybe are not relevant or too detailed. So definitely having someone in between to sort of parse it out is important. But do you think it's also important for the scientists themselves to have a little bit of these skills? Maybe not to the extent needed for a professional job, but in order to help the process a bit.
Yes, I think that we can talk about the so-called soft skills that are always present and always required in I think many fields. So I think it's always a pro, and this is something. Now we're talking about the scientists, but we also, since FuseNet goes with education from the early stages, the fact of soft skills is always an added benefit to any kind of research, fusion or not. But I would say that for fusion, this kind of extra skills are good because we have a very international community in fusion. So the ability to communicate with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, everybody towards the same objective, but with different approaches. I think this is really good. And I think I'd say the networking abilities and the communication abilities of the scientists could be really helpful. So I think, especially when you, for example, I take the examples of Eurofusion because it's the leading consortium in fusion in Europe. The groups within Eurofusion are really diverse because the members of Eurofusion are from many countries in Europe. So having these work groups with different people from different backgrounds, different ways to present their research, even if the scientific community has a fixed, let's say, way to show results, but still people get their own touches depending on where they're coming from. So if you as a scientist are able to present these results properly to the community, to interact with your own community, and also to interact with the public if possible, then I think it's an added benefit. So added benefit for you, for your working group, because then people are more prone to collaboration and to interaction, but also for your research, because things go smoother, I would say. When you are able to work easily with people, I think the research goes smooth.
So this is also having these soft skills, let's say, or at least presentation skills, are kind of, they have a significant impact on one's career as well, on one's scientific career. To be able to present well means people understand you, and then that means they're able to collaborate with you better in some ways. And I think that I'm curious if FuseNet or if you know of some other organization which provides this sort of professional development training for current scientists, right? Like for people who have already made it, let's say, past the doctorate education. Because as far as I know, within scientific education, there's not so much emphasis on these soft skills. They make you present here and there, but they never give you that much feedback on what's a proper way to do it. So are there professional development opportunities out there?
Well, to be honest, I am not aware of any institution, like a centralized institution, that provides these skills. So we are FuseNet are trying to put these skills with the student community. So we organize events. We also have student assistants working for FuseNet, so getting into this in my community. So we do it for the young generation, but for the current generation, I would say, unless there is a already established plan for this within their own institutions. I mentioned, for example, here the University of Eindhoven, they have some staff formation courses, even on soft skills. But from the Fusion community, I would say that would be something really good for the education and training PMU of Eurofusion, the program management unit, because Eurofusion has education and training. Of course, the main focus of this is the researchers and engineering grant of Eurofusion, which you are also very familiar with. But also this could be also something that could be tackled in the long term, or not in the so long term, but could be tackled in the future to be able to provide these skills to the scientists, maybe at a local level. So like I said, again, with the institutions that are hiring these scientists, and having some program and some opportunities for the scientists to develop their soft skills. So yeah, I think it would be really important. And also mobility plays a good part on this. So that's why we promote a lot of mobility within students in FuseNet, because from experience, but also from studies, it's seen that if you go to a mobility action somewhere, if you interact with peers from other places, and you're able to work in a project, a common project, or towards a goal with people from other backgrounds and other countries, then you automatically develop some skills of communicating by necessity, not even by proper training, by necessity. And this is something that will come back helping you as your career evolves within the community. So yeah, mobility is key, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. I can definitely attest to that, because it's having worked with not even just in Europe, which is already not my home continent, let's say, but it's already been such a wonderful experience here. But then, being able to go to Japan and work with scientists there, it's just a different experience, because everybody has been educated in different ways, and they understand the same, scientific problem, but just come at it from different angles. And even trying to discuss that, you realize how different, how much you've assumed, right?
Yeah.
And it really does help.
It does. Yes.
Okay, that's cool. And so FuseNet, of course, supports mobility for master students, as you said. Is there any, I guess, for FuseNet, is there primary focus currently on the master student, or is there any ambition to spread beyond that in a more expansive manner, right?
Well, yeah. So let's say that for our core business is always the master students, but it like I mentioned at the beginning, we cover the whole educational range. So we do have initiatives for all the educational levels. For example, I can start by the primary school. So I will do a little review, a short review of the work packages we do and the activities. For example, for the primary school, we have launched a call last year for the development of educational materials in fusion and science for primary school students. So there was a call. A company called Native Scientists from Portugal was awarded that call, and then this year they produced what the final product of this call, which is 3 modules on it's mainly science, and there is a little hint of fusion, because of course primary school you cannot go there talking about the atoms and the electrons, and so of course this is why it's a very special topic to address, but it's mainly to engage primary school kids into science, into scientific thinking, into activities, and also there is a hint of fusion, so they already know. So we will make these materials available next year on the FuseNet website. So for the people here, just to let you know that the FuseNet website is also contains a lot of materials, educational materials. So we make our materials available for the public. So these materials will be there. So we're also looking for feedback from the teachers and see how they implement this in the schools. So there's the educational material for primary school. Yeah, then we have the secondary school. Then we have this initiative which is called the FuseNet Teacher Day that we have every year, and then the idea of this is to invite the teachers of science from high schools, to invite them to an online event where they know about Fusion. So this online event is split in half. So there is a local session that we contact the local organizers in the different countries where they provide an introduction in Fusion in their local languages. So there is a local session. Yeah, there are several European countries, and then they provide this introduction session in the local language. And then we from FuseNet organize what we call the European session. And that European session, mainly we tell them the available material that we have with us. And then we give them a virtual tour for the main facilities of Fusion. So for example, this year's tour was, we have a presentation from ITER, and we had a tour from Wendelstein 7X. So they are like the leading experiments, the two concepts of fusion that are being developed in Europe, the tokamak and the stellarator. So the teachers were able to see. And then as the part of presenting our material, I'm also very proud to say that this year we concluded a set of 5 modules for secondary school education, 5 modules which deal with the main topics of fusion. And these modules are being developed in a way that they are useful for classroom material. And the goal with these modules is that the secondary school teachers include these materials within their curriculum, and so that fusion education can be started quite early in the secondary school. So we have each module contains the student reader, the teacher material, the PowerPoint presentation for school, and then some additional exercises. So they are really well developed. That also in conjunction with this FuseNet video we talked about before. So this is like complementary, the video is complementary to that. So yeah, at the moment we are looking for translations, because of course these materials are provided in English. This is our working language, but of course at this stage it would be also good to have it translated. So I'm really proud and thankful to the teachers, because some of them have expressed their interest in voluntarily translating these modules into the languages. So we're using it at giving a follow-up. So we will see how that goes, but for the moment it's really going very well. So yeah, so for the other activities, we have, for example, moving to the PhD level. Mostly the education at the PhD level is handled directly by Eurofusion. But we from FuseNet, we provide what we call the networking event for Fusion PhD students in Europe, which is the FuseNet PhD event.
Yes.
We're happy to have you as a guest.
I was happy to be there. It was very wonderful. Yeah.
We're really happy to have you there. So the event is usually live. So of course, for the years of the pandemic, it wasn't. We had a virtual editions, but we are really happy to say that that this year we had the live event finally in Padova, in Italy. It is a 3-day live event where we gather most of the PhD students, Fusion students in Europe. And it is a really good opportunity for networking. So of course, there is a scientific background behind it. So we want the students to present their work, but also the main goal of the event is to create a community, because the student at that level of education in Fusion, the people you know at the moment is going to be the people you're going to work in the future. These are the future leaders of facilities, experiments, main lead researchers. So we want to build that community, and that event is the way to do it. So this is something we provide a lot of interaction possibilities with students, and also we provide them with a way to show their work. So we have a very unique, let's say, format for oral presentations, which is called the Pechakucha presentations. So this is a format where the students have a 20-second per slide presentation. It goes on automatic, so you don't have to push it. So you just go there, tell your story. It's usually super engaging, because you have to be engaging for such a short time. So we have this format for the oral presentations, and then we also had, of course, the poster sessions. And I'm really happy to say that I could see the motion of having this presentation, the engagements of the presenter, but also of the public, to see what the peers are doing, what is the interest. And also when the poster session came, I was really happy to see a really good interaction. There was not a single person in a poster just waiting for people to come. It was like just a buzz of activity, and you were there because you were making interviews. I remember you were interviewing people. So this is really good. So this initiative, we're really proud of the PhD event. This is something we with the support of Eurofusion, we have every year, and we expect this to grow. So we had really good positive feedback from the students. They were really happy to be there again and to network and to meet some peers. And yeah, so we will looking forward for the next year's event. So yeah, this is it. And then, for example, for the professional development, we are involving the fusion industry, and so probably that's a different chapter that maybe we'll talk on another occasion. But the emerging fusion industry, not only for the big projects like ITER or demo or this, but also the emerging startups in fusion, which there are a lot, and there is a lot of investment of private investment in these initiatives. And yeah, so we are as FuseNet, we are connecting with these companies. We are bringing them to our network, and we are providing what we call the matchmaking service. So we have a pool of students who belong to the network of FuseNet. So we connect them with the companies, with the institutions, with the research centers, with the members of the FuseNet network, and then we connect them in a way that the institutions or the companies, they promote their internships, they promote their projects, their research projects, and then they promote it within FuseNet. And if there is an interested candidate, we provide the match. So say, hey, look, this is an internship that may appeal you, or the candidate says, yeah, I like this. So we put them in touch, and then they deal with the connection. And even on top of that, FuseNet provides economical support for the students to go to these internships. So it is a good initiative, and that we are aiming with that for the students to join the work field of fusion. So to transition from their study, let's say, study position towards working in the fusion industry or the fusion research. So yeah. So this is an overall review of the activities we do. So like I said, master students are our main target, but we at the moment, we cover quite a lot of range, quite a lot of activities in the whole educational levels, and we're really happy about that. And we see the benefits. So we are forming, and we are training, and we are promoting fusion for this generation, but also for the generations to come, and for the generations that will actually work on the machines that are being built now, on the projects of the present. Yeah.
Wow, that does seem like a very impressive list of activities. I'm still like blown away by exactly how much FuseNet does. This is really crazy. And it's great that you're seeing some positive feedback loops on that. So it must be very rewarding for you to be working on that. And with that, actually, I'd like to call it. We're running low on time now. So thank you again, Dario, for coming on and sharing with us your experience, and also with what FuseNet does and how people can get involved in fusion moving forward on any level, right? They can just take part in any of these activities.
Yeah, no, thank you, Aaron, very much again for the invitation, and thank you very much for having this initiative, this podcast, because this is also really helpful for the building of the community and for the widespread information of fusion and public engagement. So thank you very much for this initiative. I wish you all the success in the upcoming episodes, and then let's see if we can continue in the education and training business in fusion, which is, I think, there is a good perspective for the future, and I think all the seeds that are being planted at the moment in terms of formation and engagement and bringing talent, they are gonna be rewarded in the future, and we're gonna see some nice results.
Yeah, and I think it's already starting to pay off, to be honest. The amount of outreach and interest in fusion has already gone up so much, and I'm sure it's in no small part also due to your efforts at FuseNet. So this is absolutely wonderful for me to see and hopefully be part of. So thank you, Dario. I'm sure I'll see you again floating around the university and
Definitely.
doing communication type things. And to all our listeners out there, please feel free to check any of the FuseNet material, and maybe educate yourselves on what's happening in the world of fusion. So with that, see you everybody on the next episode. Bye.